Bam Adebayo just dropped 83 points. Let that sink in for a second. 83 points in a single NBA game. And now everyone is losing their minds asking the same question. Would the legends of the 90s have averaged over 40 points per game in today's NBA? This is the conversation that breaks the internet every single time, and today we are going all the way in. Let me set the scene first. Bam Adebayo, a center, a defensive anchor, a guy who has never been known as a primary scorer, just put up the highest single-game scoring performance in modern NBA history. The basketball world stopped. Social media went nuclear, and immediately the debate shifted from celebrating Bam to arguing about whether Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, and all those 90s gods would have gone absolutely ballistic in today's game. But here is where things get really interesting, and honestly, where most people are getting it completely wrong. First, let us talk about what Bam actually proved. This performance showed us something crucial about the evolution of the game. The rules today heavily favor offensive players. Hand checking is gone. You cannot put a hand on a ball handler the way defenders could in the 90s. Referees protect offensive players at a completely different level. Zone defenses were illegal in the NBA for most of the 90s, which is ironic because modern spacing and three-point shooting have actually made individual isolation scoring easier than ever before. The floor is more open. The pace is faster. More possessions means more opportunities to score. Now here comes the real question. If Michael Jordan was playing today with these rules, these conditions, this style of officiating, what would he average? Jordan averaged 37.1 points per game in the 1986 to 1987 season under the old rules with hand checking, with physical defense, with slower pace and fewer possessions. Under today's conditions, the argument is absolutely legitimate that he crosses 40. When you remove the physical barriers that defenders use to slow him down, combined with the increased pace of play generating more shot attempts per game, the math starts to point towards something genuinely historic. But here is where I need to pump the brakes a little, because this conversation deserves more nuance than just screaming yes or no. Bam scoring 83 points in one game is extraordinary, but outlier performances do not automatically rewrite history. One game, no matter how staggering, does not give us a complete picture of what would happen across an entire 82-game season. Average scoring across the league is higher today, but so is average defensive athleticism. The players defending in today's NBA are longer, faster, and more versatile than ever before. Think about this from the other direction. Would Hakeem Olajuwon destroy modern big men? Absolutely yes. Would Shaquille O'Neal be even more unstoppable today, given how few physical tools defenders would have to slow him down? Without question. But Shaq scoring 40 per game across a full season? That requires sustained dominance at a level even Shaq himself never fully reached in his prime. His peak average was around 29 points per game, and while the modern game would inflate that number, doubling it is a stretch that even the most passionate 90s defenders would struggle to defend logically. Here is what Bam's 83-point game actually does to this debate. It proves the ceiling has been raised. It demonstrates that in the right game, with the right conditions, with offensive rules that practically gift points to skilled players, an elite athlete can reach numbers that would have seemed impossible even 5 years ago. If Bam Adebayo, primarily a defensive center and a role player in terms of offensive hierarchy, can drop 83, then what does that tell you about what a player engineered specifically for scoring could achieve? Jordan, Kobe, Iverson. These were not defensive centers who happened to have a good night. These were assassins, built from the ground up to put the ball in the basket. Their footwork, their shooting mechanics, their competitive instincts, their sheer will to dominate. All of that translating into a modern offensive environment is genuinely terrifying to think about. But the 40-point average specifically, that is a different threshold. Only Wilt Chamberlain has ever averaged 40 for an entire season in NBA history. He averaged 50.4 in 1961 to 1962. That number exists in a completely different universe, even compared to Jordan's best averages. The 90s legends would score more today. That part is not really debatable when you understand the rules and pace. Consistently averaging 40 across a full season is a much higher bar. What Bam proved is not that 90s players would average 40. What Bam actually proved is that the modern NBA has entered a scoring era where individual output can reach levels we have never seen before. Records that felt permanent are now suddenly vulnerable, and that makes the historical comparisons even more exciting because we are forced to reimagine greatness through a completely new lens. The takeaway from 83 points is bigger than any single number. It is a signal that the game keeps evolving, that barriers keep falling, and that somewhere in this era, there is a player with the combination of skill and opportunity to do something truly generational on the scoring side of the ledger. So would 90s legends average over 40 points in today's NBA? The most honest answer is that the elite ones would almost certainly see significant scoring inflation. Some could genuinely flirt with that 40-point mark in peak seasons, but sustaining it across an entire campaign remains the mountain that separates icons from mythology. Drop your opinion in the comments right now. Would Jordan crack 40 per game in today's NBA, or is that still too high even for the greatest scorer who ever lived? Subscribe because this conversation is far from over, and honestly, with the way this season is going, Bam might not hold that record for long.